So today we will take up the features of the Indian Constitution. But before that, let us revise what we have studied in the last session. So Indian Constitution has been borrowed from multiple sources. So we'll just revise the sources from where it has been borrowed. Australia ru kon borrow heichi concurrent list and joint sitting of parliament, provision of trade, commerce and intercourse, that is Article 301 to 307. Canadian influence देखो କାନାଡାରୁ ସବୁ ୟୁନିଟାରୀ ଫିଚର୍ସ ଯୋଉଗୁଡା ଅଛି ମୋଷ୍ଟ ପ୍ରୋବାବଲି ତମେ ସେଇଟା ରିଲେଟ୍ କରିପାରିବ ଯେ ୟୁନିଟାରୀ ଫିଚର୍ସ ଗୁଡା ବେଶୀ ବର କରାହେଇଛି କାନାଡାରୁ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରଙ୍ଗ ସେଣ୍ଟର ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ଇଜ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରଙ୍ଗ ସେଣ୍ଟର with a ଯେମିତି ଆମର Indian Constitution has both federal and unitary features but it is more tilted towards center. So strong center, advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court, Article 143, appointment of governor and residuary powers on the center. तो जोगुड़ा कि यूनिटरी फीचर्स गुड़ा बेसी कैनेडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन रो अଣା ହେଇଛି ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ କନଫ୍ୟୁଜନ ହେଇପାରେ ତମର appointment of governor କାନାଡା ରୁ ଅଣା ହେଇଛି but office of the governor has been derived from the government of India Act 1935 government of India 1935 ରୁ governor's office but କାନାଡା ରୁ ତମର appointment of state governors. So please note this. This is a scope for potential confusion that can be asked in question. Irish influence, DPSP, presidential election and nomination of Rajya Sabha members, just like Sachin Tendulkar. Japanese influence, procedure established by law. Soviet influence, fundamental duties and ideals of justice. Britain influence, parliamentary government, rule of law by A.B. Dicey, as we have seen in the last session. Parliamentary privileges, bicameralism, single citizenship, cabinet system, writs. US, fundamental rights, judicial independence, that is principle of natural justice, judicial review, removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges, office of Vice President and impeachment of President. German influence, Weimar Constitution, suspension of rights during fundamental rights during emergency. South African influence, amendment procedure of Rajya Sabha. Okay, amendment procedure and Rajya Sabha election. Sorry. Amendment procedure under Part 20, Article 368 and Rajya Sabha election. French influence, the ideas of republic, liberty, equality and fraternity borrowed from French constitution. तो यही जिनस गुड़ा तुमको एग्जाम रे पचारि पारे तो बी केयरफुल विथ दिस. Next, we'll come to features of Indian Constitution. So, Constitution, what is the Constitution? As I have explained in the last session, the Constitution defines the role between the stakeholders. That is, the stakeholders are the government, the individual, and society. So, it tries to achieve a harmonious balance and peaceful coexistence between these three units. Okay, so that is the role of Constitution. It defines the role and limitations of these three stakeholders. So Constitution also defines the principles of government organization, its functioning. Constitution is also called the fundamental law, supreme law, basic law, instrument of government, rules of the state, okay, basic structure, the ground norm, okay. What is Constitution? Indian Constitution is the lengthiest written constitution. 1949 रे Constitution ର parts ସବୁ ଥିଲା Preamble, 395 ଟା article, 22 ଟା parts ଆଉ 8 ଟା schedule. Now it is around 470 articles, 25 parts and 12 schedules. So एते बड़ काईकी हला our constitution because of our diversity, vast country, historical factors and legal expertise. That is our constitutional makers were well versed legal luminaries. Okay, so that's why our constitution is lengthy. Sources again we have seen structural part. Okay, executive ro structural part जोटा कि borrow करा ହେଇଥିଲା Government of India 1935 Act ରୁ because again Indian Constitution ରେ ही executive ର functioning को define करा ହେଇଛି. That is also one of the reason why the constitution is so much bulky. Okay, Government of India Act 1935 ର structural part borrow करा ହେଇଛି, philosophical part borrow करा ହେଇଛି from US Constitution, the concept of fundamental rights, from Irish Constitution, the concept of DPSP, from the Britain Constitution, then about the political part, that is parliamentary sovereignty, rule of law, as we have seen above. Federal system with unitary bias, our constitution ର federal system ଅଛି, okay, with unitary bias. Article 1, union of states, federal features and unitary features. तो federal feature जोटे भी तमे फेडरेशन वर्ड देखिबो, फेडरेशन माने डिवीजन ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, डिविजन ऑफ गवर्नमेंट ओके तो सेटा टू टायर डिविजन हो पारे थ्री टायर डिविजन हो पारे तो गोटे सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट रहिबो गोटे गोटे सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कि फेडरल गवर्नमेंट रहिबो ओके सेंट्रल और फेडरल गवर्नमेंट आ गोटे स्टेट गवर्नमेंट रही पारिबो आ इंडिया रे स्टेट तले लोकल गवर्नमेंट भी अछि ओके सो दी भाग रे डिवाइड करा जिवो गवर्नमेंट गवर्नेंस स्ट्रक्चर को ओके दैट इज द कोर आइडिया ऑफ फेडरलिज्म ओके तो again जदि एटा कोर आइडिया फेडरलिज्म एथरा हमें ऑलरेडी डिराइव करि परिबा एज ए कलर ओके डुअल गवर्नमेंट इज द मेन फीचर ऑफ फेडरलिज्म इट कैन बी डुअल और इट कैन बी मल्टीपल तो जदि दीटा गवर्नमेंट हबो तांकर पावर की स्पेसिफाई करा जिवो एई लेवल रो गवर्नमेंट रो एई पावर एई गवर्नमेंट लेवल रो एई पावर तो डिवीजन ऑफ पावर्स भी एज ए corollary of this concept of federation बाकी सबू we can derive logically that is division of powers between the levels of the government written constitution yes because written constitution is needed because it provides clear codification of powers of the two levels of government so written constitution okay bicameralism okay bicameralism representation of the central and state level of government okay constitutional supremacy it is needed because constitution will define the roles and functions of the levels of government that's why and the government should follow that constitutional dictum okay that's why constitutional supremacy is a part of federal structure okay unitary रे भी constitutional supremacy insert करी हबो but ଯଦି ତମେ logically ଦେଖିବ it is more aligned with federal system okay ତମେ ତାପରେ ଅଲଗା ବି ବାହାର କରିପାରିବ rigid constitution ବି part of federal structure ହେଇପାରିବ because ଯଦି constitution rigid ରହିବ ତାକୁ amend କରିବାର procedure ସହଜ ହବନି ତ କେହି କାହା domain କୁ interfere କରିବେନି okay again ତାର corollary ହେଇପାରିବ independent judiciary can be a corollary of federal feature of government because the judiciary will be a check to the interference between the two levels of government okay so federal feature ର ଏଇ ସବୁ characteristic ରହିପାରିବ unitary feature ର ଯେମିତି strong center unitary feature ରେ ଗୋଟାଏ level of government ରହିବ ମୁଁ ଯେମିତି କହିଲି central ଆଉ ଦିଟା level କି ତିନିଟା level ରହିବ ସେମିତି କିଛି ନାହିଁ one level and that level is all powerful so center is strong center okay single citizenship it can be a feature it is in India integrated judiciary okay one judiciary it overlooks both the central laws and state laws it deals with both emergency provisions okay emergency provision ରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ତମର state ମାନଙ୍କ existence ରୁହେନି or the center can override the states that is a feature of unitary provision again as a corollary ତମେ derive କରିପାରିବ unitary feature ର ଅଲଗା କଣ କଣ ସବୁ provision ହେଇପାରେ that is destructible states okay flexible constitution ମାନେ ତମର center ଚାହିଁଲେ ତମେ state ର domain କୁ ପଶି ପାରିବ it can it can go outside the dictate of the constitution by amending the constitution easily okay so equality of state representation रही परिवनी unitary feature जेमति तमरो states are not equal in India just like if you compare USA ରେ 50ଟା state ମାନଙ୍କର ଦିଦିଟା representative ତାଙ୍କର upper house ରେ 100ଟା representative ସେମିତି India ରେ the representation can vary from state to state okay all India service ହଉ that is ଆଉ governor office ହଉ integrated audit machinery ho okay parliament legislating over state list according to article 249 okay 249 that can also be included in the as a unitary feature of Indian constitution okay so Indian constitution has features of both federal and unitary rigidity plus flexibility okay Indian constitution has both केते केते पार्ट ऑफ केते केते कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को पार्ट गुडा सिंपल मेजॉरिटी अमेंड करी हे जीवो को पार्ट पई स्पेशल मेजॉरिटी दरकार ओके so it is blend of जेमति यूएस constitution is highly rigid uk constitution is flexible so India has provisions of both rigidity and flexibility parliamentary government okay Westminster model okay it has been derived it has been adopted by India and executive accountability to parliament okay this is a feature of parliamentary government synthesis okay as you have seen parliamentary sovereignty UK ର ଯେମିତି plus judicial supremacy in USA तो India ରେ both ଅଛି parliamentary sovereignty ବି ଅଛି judicial supremacy ବି ଅଛି okay judicial supremacy means both both work in balance okay they do not always confront each other in a continuous manner okay ଦି ଜଣଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ tussle ହୁଏ but that tussle is a matured argument not like a bar fight or a public brawl Okay. Judiciary, integrated judiciary plus independent judiciary, as I have already explained. Supreme Court is at the apex court. It is the guardian of constitution and fundamental rights. And the integrated judiciary, as I have said, integrated judiciary, one judicial system implements both the central laws and the state laws. Okay, independent judiciary. So there are three pillars: executive, legislative, and judiciary, and there is separation of powers between the three. Now comes the provision of fundamental rights. Fundamental rights ତମେ ମନେ ରଖିବ ଆମର 6ଟା fundamental right ଅଛି ତ ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ ଟ୍ରିକ୍ ଅଛି ତମର ମନେ ରଖିବ କେତେଟା କଣ provision ଅଛି ତ 5 4 2 4 2 1 ଓକେ ତ ଏମିତି ତମର 5 4 2 4 2 1 ତ article equality okay the provision of freedom of sorry equality come is covered under article 14 to 18 14 ରୁ 18 ଭିତରେ ପାଞ୍ଚଟା ଆର୍ଟିକଲ ଅଛି 14 15 16 17 18 ପାଞ୍ଚଟା ଆର୍ଟିକଲ next comes freedom article 19 to 22 19 20 21 22 that is ଚାରିଟା article 4 then comes right against exploitation ଦିଟା article 23 24 ଦିଟା article religious freedom 25 to 28 ଚାରିଟା article cultural and educational rights 29 to 30 again theta article 29 30 then right to constitutional remedies article 32 that is 1 okay this is 1 so 5 4 2 4 2 1 these are our fundamental rights okay 6ଟା fundamental right ଅଛି ତାଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ତମେ 5 4 2 4 2 1 କରିକି ମନେ ରଖିପାରିବ ବାକି 32 ପରେ ତମର ଅଛି 33 ଯେମିତି parliament can modify part 3 ର provision with respect to the armed forces 34 ଯେମିତି restriction of rights when martial law is imposed okay 35 ତ ତମେ ଜାଣିଛ ଯେମିତି parliament can only legislate to give effect to the provisions of part 3 okay ଏଇଟା ତମେ ଜାଣିଛ so ସେ ସେଗୁଡା fundamental right ରେ ଯିବନି so they are dictates towards the executive okay so ଏଇଗୁଡା ସମର individual ମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ fundamental right ଯୋଉଟା କି specify କରାଯାଇଛି these are limitations of the state against an individual okay କେତେ କେତେ enabling provision ଅଛି କେତେ enabling positive connotation ଅଛି କେତେ negative connotation ଅଛି ଯୋଉଟା ଆମେ fundamental right chapter ରେ ଦେଖିବା okay fundamental rights ର feature ହଉଛି fundamental rights they give civil and political rights okay civil and political rights to the individuals तमरा DPSP gives social and economic rights okay economic democracy it can be said democracy it can be said rights also okay to individuals social plus okay social and economic rights तो प्रथम फंडामेंटल राइट आसला तुमको सिविल सोसाइटी रे केमती बिहेव करा जीवो तुम सारे केमती ट्रीटमेंट हो सेटा डिफाइन कर दिया गला तापर सिविल सोसाइटी पर तुमरो एबे जदी स्टेट रा कैपेसिटी देखिकी तुमरो सोशल और इकोनॉमिक राइट्स को गारंटी भी करा हेची कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन रे ओके तो DPSP पार्ट 4 एटा फंडामेंटल राइट्स पार्ट 3 part 4 article 36 to 51 these are non justiciable they are socialistic Gandhian and liberal intellectual we'll see it in the chapter of DPSP fundamental duties these are added by the 42nd constitutional amendment act of 1976 they were added by the recommendations of the Swaran Singh committee we will also see it later the fundamental duty gotte article 51 ए ସେଥିରେ 11ଟା duty ଅଛି okay 11ଟା fundamental duty ଅଛି they are also non justiciable secular state, secularism is a part of constitution. Secularism was added by the 42nd CAA 1976. So it means equal respect to all religions, not total separation like the West. Okay, West there is no relation between the state and religion, but India follows the principled equidistance. Okay, principled equidistance. এটা ଆମେ preamble secularism value ପଢିଲା ବେଳେ ଏଟା ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା ଏଇ ଜିନିଷଟା equal respect to all religions that is the secularism idea of India and the articles of secularism that is article 14 equality of law 15 and 16 no discrimination on the basis of religion 25 to 30 ଆମେ ଦେଖିଲେ ଏଟା 25 to 30 ତମର 25 to 28 right of religious freedom and cultural and educational rights under 29 and 30 as we have seen it article 44 about uniform civil code so these are articles of secularism okay universal adult franchise has been provided in constitution voting age was reduced from 21 to 18 in the 61st CAA 1989. Okay, এই জিনিসটা মনে রাখিও, এটা আমি পচারি পারে, এটা important constitutional amendment. Single citizenship, uniform political and civil rights across India. Across India means across all states. Unlike USA ରେ ଯେମିତି ତମର state ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ citizenship ରହିଛି, ତମର federal government ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ means ତମର ୟୁନାଇଟେଡ୍ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ସ ଅଫ୍ ଆମେରିକା ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ ସିଟିଜେନସିପ, ଆଉ ତମେ ଯୋଉ ଷ୍ଟେଟ ରେ ରହୁଛ, ସପୋଜ ଆଇଓୱା ରେ ରହୁଛ ତମେ, ତ ସେଇ ଷ୍ଟେଟ ପାଇଁ ତମ ସେପାରେଟ ସିଟିଜେନସିପ ସେପାରେଟ ରୁହେ। ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ସେମିତି ନାହିଁ, ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ସିଙ୍ଗଲ ସିଟିଜେନସିପ ଫର ବୋଥ ସେଣ୍ଟ୍ରାଲ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଷ୍ଟେଟ। इंडिपेंडेंट बॉडीज भी अच्छी, इलेक्शन कमिशन, सीएजी, यूपीएससी, दीज आर डेमोक्रेटिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस। इमरजेंसी प्रोविजंस हमर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन रे अच्छी, जोटा कि अबाउट नेशनल इमरजेंसी अंडर आर्टिकल 352, स्टेट इमरजेंसी दैट इज प्रेसिडेंट रूल अंडर आर्टिकल 356, फाइनेंशियल इमरजेंसी अंडर आर्टिकल 360। तो इमरजेंसी प्रोविजन रे खाली तमे +4 करियो। 352 मन रखियो, 352 टू स्टार्ट है नेशनल इमरजेंसी, +4 इज 356, +4 is 360. Okay, this is financial emergency, this is president rule. Article 365, that is also, it says that if a state fails to comply with the central directions, then it is lawful for the president to implement emergency. Okay, implement president rule. Okay, 356 and 365, these are emergency provisions. And during emergency, federal constitution is federal system tilts towards unitary. Okay, states manakar kichi existence rahiboni, means rahibo, but their power will become redundant. Three tier government, article 40, village panchayat, 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment act. Okay, so these three articles are legislations of decentralization. Okay, legislations of decentralization or devolution of power. Okay, devolution of power, these are not delegation of power. Okay, this is devolution of power, means ତାକୁ permanently ଦେଇ ଦିଆଗଲା. Okay, delegation of power nuho. Okay, so these are legislation of decentralization. So in article 40, that is village panchayats, DPSP ର part. Okay, 73rd and 74th, you all know, it is about panchayats and municipalities, urban local bodies. Similarly, cooperative societies also. 97th constitutional amendment act re cooperative societies, they got constitutional status. 97th CAA 2011, again a CAA টা important, এটা মনে রাখিব। 97th constitutional amendment act 2011 related to cooperative societies. So fundamental right to form cooperative societies, this became a part of fundamental rights under article 19. नया DPSP add करागला under article 43B to promote, states should promote cooperatives. Part 9B, cooperatives, article 243ZH to 243ZT. Okay, so ये सब 97 CAA रे करागला cooperative society. So these are the features of the constitution, parts of Indian constitution. Okay, तो पार्ट्स को मन रखिया पे टिके गोटे गोटे कांसेप्ट जानता कोनोसी, देखो एटा तुम यूपीएससी रे क्वेश्चन पचारथला, कोनोसी भी स्टेट रे। ओके, गोटे जिंस तमरो गोटे जदी स्टेट की गोटे स्टेट हवा पई चारिटा एसेंशियल कंडीशन दरकार। चारटा एसेंशियल कंडीशन कोन? फर्स्ट होची टेरिटरी, तार गोटे किछि गोटे जागा थिबो। ओके, फर्स्ट टेरिटरी, सेकंड होची सिटीजन्स, कि सब इंडिविजुअल थिबे, ता ऊपर स्टेट रूल करिवो। ओके, इंडिविजुअल सब थिबे, दीज आर सिटीजन्स। थर्ड रे होची गवर्नमेंट। ओके, गवर्नमेंट ए टेरिटरी रे सिटीजन माने जो सब अछंती तांको ऊपर से रूल करिवो, दैट इज गवर्नमेंट। ओके, देन फोर्थ इज सॉवरेंटी। The government that is ruling over this territory, over these individuals, should be sovereign or independent. Okay, सी का अंडर रे नथिबो, जदि अंडर थिबो then that cannot be called a separate government or a separate state. That can be, for example, जेमति तमे नै परिबो, suppose China and Pakistan रो सेमति किछि independent. Okay, it is a state, it is a better independent state ही अछि, but because चाइना रो बहुत इन्फ्लुएंस होछि पाकिस्तान ऊपर, तार स्टेट रो किछि इंडिपेंडेंस नाही। ओके, सोवरेंटी सेमति हमें कहि परिबानी, से ताकू जे जहा कहबो से सेया करिवो। ओके, तार इंडिपेंडेंट सोवरेंटी किछि नाही, सो इट कैन नॉट बी कॉल्ड एज a state. Okay, so state, although it is a state, but technically जदि हमें देखियो, it cannot be called a state because sovereignty is missing in Pakistan. Okay, because external influence मानकर बहुत इन्फ्लुएंस रहिबो पाकिस्तान ऊपर, जेंति यूएसए चाहिले ता ऊपर चढ़ जिवो, चाइना चाहिले ता ऊपर चढ़ जिवो। ओके, so just like that. otherwise जदि आम देखिपर गोटे भल एग्जांपल देखिबा इस्राएल और पैलेस्टाइन ऊपर पैलेस्टाइन सेपरेट अछि बट पैलेस्टाइन रो पॉलिसीज आर मेनली डोमिनेटेड बाय इस्राएल सो पैलेस्टाइन रो सिंधी सेपरेट स्टेट किछि स्टेटस नाही ओके बिकॉज़ सोवरेनिटी नाही ओके so this is all about state state रे चारटा डेफिनेशन रहया दरकार एटा क्वेश्चन रे पचारतला which of the following best defines the state एटा यूपीएससी रे पचारतला so कोई सब सो एटा बद्धे 2022 की 23 रे पचार थला आई डोंट रिमेंबर बट आंसर इज ए कम्युनिटी ऑफ पर्सन्स इंडिविजुअल रहिबे ऑक्युपाइंग ए डेफिनाइट टेरिटरी गोटे जगह रे रहिबे इंडिपेंडेंट ऑफ एक्सटर्नल कंट्रोल स्टेट सोवरेनिटी रहिबो पोजेसिंग एन ऑर्गेनाइज्ड गवर्नमेंट गोटे गवर्नमेंट रहिबो एई चारिटा कंपोनेंट थिले ही स्टेट रहिबो तो एटा मु काहे तुमको कहली तो पार्ट्स ऑफ इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मन रखिया को तुमको ए कांसेप्टटा बुझिया को हो तो इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पार्ट्स केमती केमती हला आगे हमें डिफाइन कर देलो हमर टेरिटरी द यूनियन एंड इट्स टेरिटरीज ओके एबे लोक रहिबे लोक माने रहि गले पार्ट 2 सिटीजनशिप रहि गले लोक माने रहि गले एबे लोक मानकर किछि किछि राइट्स रहिबो लोक मानकर किछि किछि राइट्स रहिबो ओके आउ स्टेट को किछि वाटर लिमिट करा जिवो बिकॉज़ अल्टीमेटली स्टेट विल इंप्लीमेंट द लॉस बिकॉज़ एंड स्टेट इज ऑल पावरफुल so we have to limit the state not to become arbitrary okay so ସେଥିପାଇଁ ତମର fundamental rights ରହିଲା DPSP ରହିଲା again fundamental duties भी add करा गला okay duties of citizens so these are all related to citizens okay then comes the government the union government the state government okay okay ये जिनिसटा मन रखिए part 7 this has been repealed okay this has been repealed part 7 ଏବେ ନାହିଁ union territory government okay this is all government part of government okay ଏବେ part of government ହେଇଗଲା ଏବେ ଆମେ ଜାଣିଲେ federal system ଅଛି ଆମର government is federal in nature ତ federalism ର dual polity is the basic structure basic concept of federal polity ତ ଏବେ ଅଲଗା government ମାନଙ୍କର ଏବେ କଣ ଏବେ government first broadly define ହେଇଗଲା okay ଏବେ broadly government କୁ define କରିଗଲା ଏବେ ଆମର devolution of powers जो गवर्नमेंट को कराई तांको एबे डिफाइन करा जिवो सो कम्स दी पार्ट ऑफ पंचायत municipalities okay panchayats and municipalities again cooperative societies can also be considered under devolution of power okay तो part 9 भी एबे तमरो बाकी सब रहला बाकी सब जोगुडा सब प्रोविजन रहगला तार बिकॉज द गवर्नमेंट इज सोवरेन इट इज फ्री टू रेगुलेट इट्स अफेयर एज इट विशेस ओके तो तमरो शेड्यूल्ड एंड ट्राइबल एरिया रे केमती कोन चलिबो रिलेशन बिटवीन यूनियन एंड स्टेट्स केमती चलिबो ओके तो एगुडा सब तमरो बाकी सोवरेन गवर्नमेंट रो कोन कोन काम कला एगुडा सब बाकी रहला तार ओके तो फर्स्ट तमरो टेरिटरी एस्टाब्लिश हो गला देन लोक मानकर ऊपर किछि एस्टाब्लिश कर देबे तबे तमरो गवर्नमेंट तयारी कर दलो ओके गवर्नमेंट तयारी कर दलो एबे तमरो लोकल गवर्नमेंट भी तयारी कर दलो बाकी रहला बिकॉज़ द गवर्नमेंट इज सोवरेन आर बाकी सब टेक्निकल नेटिग्रिटीज बाकी सब पार्ट ओडा रहला ओके तो हमर एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू रु तो एडा तम मन रखियो पार्ट 1 इज यूनियन एंड टेरिटरी पार्ट 2 इज अबाउट सिटीजनशिप पार्ट 3 इज अबाउट फंडामेंटल राइट्स part 4 is about DPSP part 4a is about fundamental duties part 5 6 and 7 part 5 and 6 about states and union 7 has been repealed then part 8 is about union territories part 9a and part 9b these are important eta mone rakhibo about panchayats municipalities and cooperative societies okay part 10 eta important part 10 is about scheduled and tribal areas okay बाकी पार्ट 11 एटा तो मन रखिया दरकार नहीं ट्रेड कॉमर्स पार्ट 13 ओके ट्रेड कॉमर्स एंड इंटरकोर्स विद इन टेरिटरी ऑफ इंडिया शैल बी फ्री पार्ट 13 टिके मन रखियो ओके ट्रिब्यूनल्स पार्ट 14a दिस इज इंपोर्टेंट एटा मन रखियो ट्रिब्यूनल्स अंडर आर्टिकल 323a एंड 323b पार्ट 15 द इलेक्शंस ओके इलेक्शन कमीशन इज इन न्यूज़ रिसेंटली सो पार्ट 15 एटा मन रखियो ओके पार्ट 16b it is about provision relating to certain classes parts part 17 about official languages 8 important part emergency provisions part 18 eta mane rakhibo then part 20 this is very very important part 20 amendment of constitution gote article achi article 368 eta mane rakhibo okay baki baki ଆଉ କିଛି ମନେ ରଖିବା ଦରକାର ନାହିଁ okay ତ ଏଟା ତମର UPSC 2024 ରେ ପଚାରିଥିଲା ଏଇ part power of municipalities are given in part 9a of the constitution this is true emergency provision given in part 18 of the constitution this is true and amendment of constitution under part 20 this is also true so 1 2 3 this is the answer 1 2 3 okay so एटा इंपोर्टेंट ओके जोटा जति कहली सेति तमे मन रखियो बाकी तमे आखि पकई देथिबो न मन रखिले भी चलिबो ओके तो एथरे सब दिया हिची तमरो आर्टिकल गुडा आर्टिकल 1 to 4 ओके 5 to 9 तो दरकार नाही एते फंडामेंटल राइट्स 12 to 35 पार्ट 4 36 to 51 पार्ट 4 रे इज 51 है गोटा ही आर्टिकल देखो दीटा ही इंपोर्टेंट गोटे होची पार्ट 4 ए रे गोटे आर्टिकल अछि तमरो पार्ट 20 अमेंडमेंट ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन गोटा आर्टिकल अछि आर्टिकल 368 ओके सो इटा में दिस कैन बी ए पॉइंट टू बी मार्क्ड ओके पॉइंट टू बी नोटेड सो पार्ट 5 तमरो एग्जीक्यूटिव यूनियन एग्जीक्यूटिव 52 to 151 okay part 6 about the state union territories panchayats article 243 to 243o part 9a municipalities 243p to 243zg and cooperative societies article 243zh to zd part 9b part 10 scheduled areas and tribal areas part 11 okay part 11 darkar nahi eta man rakhiyo 301 to 307 elections part 15 very important 324 to 329a tribunals okay 323a this is about administrative tribunals and 323b is about other tribunals and special provisions relating to certain classes part 16 article 330 to 342a emergency provisions under part 18 eta man rakhibo 352 to 360 official language 343 to 351 okay eta dekhile chalibo na hale bi chalibo so this is all about the parts of the constitution okay so part ra arrangement ro kichh ote logical flow achi to seta mu bujhiya chahuthili seti okay now comes the schedules of Indian constitution schedule first schedule is again state and union territory as a state को establish करा गला state and union territories 28 states and after union territories article 1 to 4 okay second schedule रे emoluments allowances and privileges of president governors the presiding officers of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and as well as the state legislative assembly and plus the presiding officers of the legislative councils okay state legislative councils also please note ei dinsa ta achi itere okay supreme court and high court judges CAG okay तो second schedule रे गोटे dinsa note करिवो second schedule रे there is no mention of prime minister okay no mention of prime minister plus एथरे vice president word mention करा जाइनी vice president word mention करा जाइनी but mention करा हिची chairman of राज्य सभा okay भाइस प्रेसिडेंट वार्ड मेंशन करा जाएनी ओके सिमिलरली तमरा सीएजी मेंशन करा हिची बट अटॉर्नी जनरल मेंशन करा हैनी ओके अटॉर्नी जनरल मेंशन करा जाएनी एटा मे बी तुमको पचारि मे बी कंफ्यूज करिया में पचार दे पारंती ओके सो सीएजी गोटे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडी केवल सीएजी ही मेंशन करा हिची जेमि तमरा इलेक्शन कमिशन र चीफ होंतु यूपीएससी चेयरमैन होंतु कि एनसीबीसी एनसीएससी कि एनसीएसटी एमाने सब किछि मेंशन हेइ नाहंती सेकंड शेड्यूल रे ओके सो इट एबेन मुझे कहली माने वाइस प्रेसिडेंट मेंशन हे नांती आ एमान सब मेंशन नांती प्लस प्रिजाइडिंग ऑफिसर्स सो एटा होची तमरो प्रिजाइडिंग ऑफिसर ऑफ लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल द चेयरमैन एंड डेप्यूटी चेयरमैन ऑफ लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल्स इज आल्सो मेंशन्ड इन सेकंड शेड्यूल ओके सो सेकंड शेड्यूल थर्ड शेड्यूल इज अबाउट ओथ एंड अफर्मेशन ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स एमपीज एमएलएस एंड जजेस कैंडिडेट्स फॉर एमपीज एंड एमएलएस एंड सीएजी ओके सीएजी रा थर्ड शेड्यूल रे भी मेंशन करा हिची ओके fourth schedule seat allocation in Rajya Sabha fifth schedule administration of scheduled areas okay article 244 clause 1 is about fifth schedule 244 clause 2 is about sixth schedule okay so sixth schedule administration of tribal areas of six scheduled areas Assam Meghalaya Tripura Mizoram article 275 clause 1 to article 275 deals with granting aid from union to states but setara 275 clause 1 रे special provision करा हिची for the six scheduled areas also okay seventh schedule is about the division of powers about the three lists union state and concurrent list okay so eighth schedule is about official languages एटा मन रखियो तमरा 22 टा ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेजेस अछि ओरिजिनली 14 टा थिला एडिशन सेतला बाय 21st अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 21st अमेंडमेंट एक्ट रे तमरा सिंधी लैंग्वेज ऐड करा वाला 71st अमेंडमेंट एक्ट रे तमरा कोंकणी मणिपुरी और नेपाली ऐड करा गला 92nd अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 2003 रे तमरा बोडो डोंगरी मैथिली
आउ सांथाली ओके सांथाली ऐड करागला तुम 92nd अमेंडमेंट एक्ट रे ही तुम 22टा लैंग्वेज हो जाइए ओके 96th अमेंडमेंट एक्ट रे तुम ओडिया को ओके ओडिया was changed to ओडिया 96th कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट ऑफ 2011 ओके ये जिनसा मन रखियो तो 22टा ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज ओरिजिनल 14 थिला ताको एडिशन करा करा कि 22टा कराई 92nd अमेंडमेंट एक्ट रे ही 22टा हो जाइला ओके 9th schedule is about land reforms, जमींदारी abolition. Okay, this schedule was added by the first constitutional amendment act. Okay, आमे देखिलु constitution आरंभ रो 8टा schedule देला तो first constitutional amendment act रे आउट schedule ऐड करा गला that is the 9th schedule related to the जमींदारी abolition and land reforms. Okay, IR कोयलो केस रे सुप्रीम कोर्ट कहिछि that post 1973 laws are reviewable means the laws that are added into the 9th schedule okay that can be reviewed by the judiciary okay article 31b anti-defection law it very important added by 52nd constitutional amendment act of 1985 এটা बहुत ही important এই amendment টা মনে রাখিবো okay article 102 and 191 11th schedule ଆମେ ଦେଖିଲେ panchayats they have 29 powers 29 items okay added by the 73rd CA 1992 74th CA 1992 municipalities 18 functional powers okay under 12th schedule okay so schedules of constitution what diagram अछि तमे जानि थिबो tiers of old PM okay everybody knows this tiers of old PM so T is for territory first schedule territories okay E for emoluments A for affirmations and oaths R is for Rajya Sabha okay Rajya Sabha seats S is for schedule areas O is for okay other schedule areas O is for other schedule areas F is for the federal list okay because the list जो 7th schedule union state list or concurrent list O होची about official languages that is the 8th schedule L is for the land reforms 9th schedule D is for the anti-defection law okay P is for the 11th schedule and 12th schedule that is the panchayats and municipalities okay so this is all about schedules of the constitution then comes the order of preference okay so it may be pachar dei pare no pachar dei pare but I have added it is this preference is maintained by the Ministry of Home Affairs for state and ceremonial occasions only no role in day to day administration okay the first rank re hochi tama president then comes the vice president then the prime minister then governors of the state within the respective states then the former presidents then the 5A deputy prime minister थिले ओके नथिले भी so that's why 5A add कराइछि then comes 6th position the chief justice of India equivalent to speaker of Lok Sabha then 7th रे cabinet ministers of union chief minister of states within the respective states okay equivalent to vice chairperson नीति आयोग equivalent to former prime minister okay so एथरे किछि कहबार नै एथरे खाली जस्ट लिखा हिछि तमे एटा पढि दबो PDF already provide करा हिछि तो this is the list of rank of dignitaries okay thank you